What is up, my friend? It is your good friend, Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast. This is the show for videographers and studio owners who want to get paid what they're worth, run a better business, and live a better life. I'm so excited that you are here today. In today's episode, I interview my friend Samson Jagoras. This guy's got 12 plus years in business, executive leadership, entrepreneurship. He served as a professional futures and commodities broker. I don't know what that means, but trust me, it's a big deal. He's actively invested in real estate. He's acted as the chief strategy officer at Madwire, an Inc. 500 marketing and technology company located in Fort Collins, Colorado, where he aided in taking Madwire's revenue from a mere $7 million to over $100 million. That's like a tenth of a billion, I think. And 35 employees to 600 employees in 10 years. Samson he was the one who introduced me to Jacob Snowden, who we had on the episode or on the show a few episodes ago, where they're making these, their most profitable videos are these $150 videos. If you haven't listened to that episode, you need to go back and check out the Jake Snowden episode. It's crazy what they're doing, just having a massive impact in the world of video, and lots of really good takeaways from that episode. But in this episode today, Samson shares advice with us like delegating earlier and more often, not being afraid to get in front of the camera as the video business owner, and why you should consider horizontal streams of income as you build your video business. One of the best things that you can do as a video business owner is to build your network. So I want to invite you to the Studio Sherpas community that is full of heart-focused videographers and entrepreneurs that are trying to make this work their living. It is full of people trying to help each other, and it's a place where you can feel safe and know that I've got your back, and we're going to do whatever we can to help you in this crazy adventure. You can join the Facebook group. It's called Grow Your Video Business. Just search for it on your local Facebook page, app, browser, wherever you search for stuff. And now let's hear a word about our sponsor, Core Group, and then we'll jump into today's episode. If there was one thing that could have ended my business 17 years ago, it would be because of the numbers. I hate accounting, taxes, W-9s, W-2s, W-40s, spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And I hate it mostly because I'm afraid of it. I'm just not great with numbers. If this sounds familiar, or if you're so new in your business that it's not even on your radar yet, you need Core Group. Core Group can help you create financial systems and tax strategies that you need so you can grow profitably, and they've been doing this for over 20 years. They become an extension of your team so that you can stay in your lane of expertise and then lean on them to help guide you along the way. For me, having a team of experts in my corner to help keep track of our books and just to make sure that we're budgeting for taxes appropriately, to have an actual strategy for our taxes and our accounting is priceless. And it allows me to sleep easier at night knowing that I don't have to be an expert in that arena. If you want to avoid surprises in your video business and you want experienced help building a plan for the future that you want, both professionally and personally, head over to studiosherpas.com/core for more information. And when you're ready to set up a free consult with them, make sure to mention Studio Sherpas for a special discount too. Got your back. Get more out of your accountant. Go to studiosherpas.com/core. What's up, friends? Welcome to another episode. Today, my guest is Samson Jagoras. Samson is the president of Growthview Properties and helps successful people passively invest in large commercial apartment complexes across the United States of America. He is also a commercial real estate broker and the VP of Strategic Investments for RE/MAX Commercial Alliance. Samson, what's up, my man?
What is up? Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming.
It has. I'm so glad we're doing this. For those of you who don't know, Samson and I used to hang out in Colorado that one time.
That one time, yeah, we did some business together back in the day when I was in marketing and technology.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was him and his team. I coincidentally, I think it was coincidentally, I was in Colorado and I said, hey, I'm just going to go meet these guys who are building out this website for us for a business that I launched and didn't ever really launch and didn't go anywhere. But they did great work and it was fun. And I got to know Samson, and that was probably the best part of all of it.
Yeah, and then somehow this last year we reconnected, probably on LinkedIn or something like that,
I
right?
think so. Yeah.
And then we reached out and said, man, we should catch up. And I saw you were doing some awesome things in video, and we decided that maybe we should do a podcast. So here we are.
Here we are. Well, tell me, as a videographer that's listening to the show, they're like, what the heck is this Samson guy? Like, what does he have? How can he help my video business? Let's just start there. Like, what the heck? What are you doing on this show, man?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I spent 9 years running strategy for a marketing and technology company. So helped take that company from 30 employees to just about 600 and a little over 100 million.
No
And
big deal.
built,
All in a day's work.
yeah, just all in a day's work. Was very fortunate to just help build 5 departments, hired north of 400 people. And so I just learned a lot about scaling business, as well as I had the ability to poke my head inside of a lot of small businesses and see the consistent and common mistakes that they make over and over and over again. And so what I'm hoping that people get out of this today is just to learn by other people's failures on how maybe they can do it better, and maybe challenge them to grow in some ways that they haven't actually thought about. Because when you're a solopreneur, right, or you're scaling up a small business, it's really easy to get caught in the day to day and lose sight of the bigger picture. And it's unfortunate because a lot of us get into business because we really love this one thing, right? I'm really good at videography and I want to build videos or websites or whatever it may be. And then we decide to become entrepreneurs, and we actually have to give up some of the reins a little bit to other people who are just as good, or maybe better than us at those specific areas, so that we can go and grow the business and ultimately make more impact. So
I love that. Yeah, that's really good. Sorry for putting you on the spot there. There is strategic reason for all of my guests here. So if this is the first time you're listening to the show, you're like, why does this guy not know why he's interviewing Samson? Like, on the show. So I love just your approach here, because it ties in. Just the name of the show is Grow Your Video Business. When I say grow your video business, I'm not saying like, oh, like the solution, the problem that you have is you don't have employees, so you need to grow and you need to hire, or you made $100,000 this year, you need to double that, you need to 10x that. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Although those things can be good, but if you're just adding those things, sometimes that can just create more chaos. And sometimes if you make $100,000 a year, 90% of that could be profit. So that's pretty cool. But in most cases, that's actually not the case. So if I can help you be more efficient in your business, be more profitable, hire maybe not a full-time, but maybe a part-time person, maybe somebody super part-time that can take some of the things that you spend so much of your time as you work in the business, that you can spend time working on the business, and some of what Samson's saying. So that's kind of the gist of the show. So I love that, all of the businesses that you've seen. I'm curious, is there one of the most common things that you're like, oh man, this is the thing that I've seen so many companies struggle with, so many small companies, some of these entrepreneurs that got into this because they just wanted to keep doing this and have an impact doing that thing. They didn't want to have to worry about HR and payroll and taxes and all of the day-to-day minutia. What would you say is one of those like really big things of like, oh, everybody's doing this, and if they could just do this instead or stop doing this, what would that be?
they don't delegate early and often enough. I think that it's really easy to get into business and end up creating a glorified job for yourself. If you wanted to just work a job 40 hours a week, like go work for somebody else, right? You'll probably be happier and make more money and have a better balance of life. But I don't think that's why you go into entrepreneurship. So, the best I ever heard it was, is this $10,000 an hour work or $10 an hour work? Not to say
That's
they're
good.
not important, but where can you make the most impact in your business? So I've always split up my teams or split up my business by thinking about, who's my internal team and who's my external team, right? And I start by outsourcing a lot of stuff, right? Like bookkeeping and accounting and basic stuff like having a personal assistant and stuff like that is a really easy way for you to offload some of that $10 an hour work so that you can really focus in on the things that are going to pay the bills and really grow the business. What keeps people from doing that is they're not stopping early in their business to think about what are those processes and how do I create those processes so that I can hand it off to somebody else, right? My job when I was in the technology firm was strategy. And so I always had this mindset was hit by a bus. If you got hit by a bus tomorrow.
I have been hit by a bus, just so you know. I survived. But
that explains a lot.
This guy. This show's over.
If you got hit by a bus tomorrow, right? Like, could the business keep going without you, or could that role keep going without you? And most people don't think that way. And then all of a sudden, it comes down to the time where they do need to hire somebody, and they're not even sure what they're hiring for, what skill set they're trying to replace, how they would even train that person. Like, they're like, that sounds like total brain damage. I got to hire this person and now teach them that stuff. And so they just don't do it. And then inevitably, it goes further and further down the road, and they're stuck with this glorified job, So if you guys are reading or watching this or listening to this and you haven't read the book, The E-Myth, I strongly recommend that you read that book because it will open your eyes to the power of process and systems.
Yeah, 100%. I accidentally read that right before I launched my business. I was kind of helping a friend. I was like, hey, maybe we're going to be business partners or something. And I don't know how I got the book. Somebody said, read it. And I read it. And then maybe a month or so later, I ended up launching my video business. And that has served me so well over the course of 17 years of like processes and systems, and like there are certain areas of the business, and as you break it apart, as you break your business apart, it comes clear pretty quick, like what things you hate doing, you never want to do, like taxes, accounting, books, all of that stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I will be. But the challenge for so many business owners is when you start with just yourself, the assumption is that you're responsible for taking care of all of those things. Typically people, I feel like people that launch their own business, they just feel the responsibility to be efficient, to not spend money where they don't have to, so that they can, quote unquote, make more money or take home more money. But man, when I started like farming out our finances, and I had a bookkeeper, I didn't realize the importance of having a bookkeeper until I got my first couple of tax bills, and I was like, holy crap, like this is not gonna work out well if we keep doing this. So being able to ask that question, like, well, what is this actually worth, and what's the time and energy that I spend doing this? Like, do I just to die after I spend an hour or 2 hours in spreadsheets trying to figure out numbers and all that stuff? I think that's a great question to ask. And I think you're right. I think the sooner somebody can ask that question, the better. But then also, like, just one tip or technique here that I would suggest is, if there's something that you do often or that needs to happen often in your business, get like Loom or BombBomb or ScreenFlow or something like that, one of those desk recording apps, and record yourself doing the thing, because that's the first step to being able to delegate and outsource. And you can get a virtual assistant, or you can find somebody that lives on your street that's just looking to work 1 or 2 hours. They just want to get out of the regular day-to-day that they currently live in and would love to feel like they're contributing to society in a different way. So to have somebody for 1 hour to 2 hours to do a couple of tasks that drive you nuts, there are people that actually would love to do those tasks for you. And it's not going to cost you a $40,000 a year salary. It might cost you $20, $50 a week. But when you look at how much time you spend on doing whatever task that is, how much energy, the negative energy that comes around that, and then what are you able to do after you do that thing? Probably nothing, because you just hate the world. You're like, oh my gosh. If you're like me and it comes to accounting and all that stuff, it's just like blah, blah, blah. As long as there's money in the bank, I feel like everything's fine.
Prime example, right? Just because I can do my own video doesn't mean I should, right? It's
yeah.
It's the same. It's this very same concept. And we don't think about that within our business, but you're spot on. It's you can't be stuck in that minutia and simultaneously be thinking about how to grow your business. You just can't, especially if
Right.
it sucks the life out of you and you don't enjoy it. You're not going to be energized to go do it. And I promise you, the investment in just delegating that stuff is going to give you a lot of freedom, and it'll make you more excited about working on growing your business.
Mhm.
The other thing you see too, especially with creatives a lot, I consider my dad to be a creative. He's a craftsman, right? Railroad track thinking. He's working on this beautiful project. Then that job ends, and it's like, oh crap, where am I going to get the next one,
Mm.
right? And it's this constant cycle. So, I always tell him, I was like, if we were in business together and you asked me to go swing some hammers, I would laugh at you, right? Just like you should be laughing thinking that you should be going getting a new job, right? Like one of probably the most valuable people on your team as a creative is somebody who can go sell new contracts. And the beautiful thing about it is it's pay to play. You're not paying a salary. It's usually commission based, right?
Mhm.
And so there's so many ways that you can structure it. They don't necessarily take money out of your pocket, which is, I think, a big misconception about trying to hire for these roles. That'll allow you to scale the business and allow you to do more of what you're best at.
I love that. Samson, I didn't think we were going to go here, but I'm just curious if that's the dream for so many people, is because they hate the selling part of what we do. And that's because I think there's a whole misconception on what you're actually doing, to that we're calling sales. Like, I think so many of us, our experience of sales is like, yeah, I don't want to try to make somebody buy something that they don't want or need. That's, in my mind, that's the epitome of, like, terrible sales role, salesperson, whatever. But when you believe in what you do, video, you feel like your videos can impact the world. They can get people to buy something that they wouldn't have normally, or do something that they wouldn't have normally because of the videos that you make, like what the videos you make, how they can make people feel, and the things that people can
Right.
do, and the experiences that you can create. Like, that's valuable stuff. So it almost feels like, if you believe that, and somebody, they want that, they need that, and they don't hire you, the feeling should be like, man, I hope they hire somebody, because it sounds like they could really use this, right? That's like guiding someone. That's like trying to help them. That's trying to serve them. If they don't hire you, not a big deal, as long as they hire somebody, if it's, that important for whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish, whether it's their daughter's getting married, or they need some sales and marketing to help their business grow.
Right.
So that's really good. But what I would love to just think through here, because so much of our time is that, like, selling, or feeling like we're selling, or even if we are selling, like, it just can be so time consuming. For somebody that would consider hiring a salesperson on commission base, whatever, and let's say I've got packages for what I sell, and I've got 3 different packages, and they range $2,500, $5,000, and $10,000. What would your advice be to me if I was going to hire somebody to do some of that selling for me? Like, how could I make that happen, and also make it lucrative to somebody? Because I always think, like, well, I mean, sure, if they sell the $10,000 package, maybe that makes it worth their hourly rate or something. But the 25, does it make any sense? Am I going to make any money on this job?
Yeah. I mean, everything is tiered and scalable, right? So I've always just looked at building tiered commission structures, and attaching that to a quota. And so, they basically, the more they sell, the bigger their commission take would be, right? So the less they sell, so your margin, as you sell more accounts, your margin improves, right? And so, as if they're not selling enough, then they're not getting as much, right? It has to be a win-win both ways. So a tiered commission structure is a great way to do that. A bonus commission structure is a great way to do that, where there's a fixed plus bonus layered on top of that. And then it ultimately just comes down to finding the right kind of person too, who's got that hunter mindset as well. I think sometimes, cheap and quality aren't necessarily congruent, right? So you can find somebody that's willing to do it for less, but does that actually mean that they're good, right? And so you can make it so that it's a win-win for everybody involved. At the front end, it just comes down to structuring that commission structure, and then also, when you're in the newer business phase, I always tell new sales people, like, listen, here's what the current commission structure is. There's a good probability that it might need to change, and so I need you to understand that at the end of the day, this has to be a profitable experience for everybody involved. But if you're crushing it, like, I'm going to find ways to make sure you make a ton of money. And most people, when they step into that startup environment, are totally okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But business really breaks down to three things, right? You got sales and marketing, you got operations, you got HR and finance, right? We already kind of talked about HR and finance. You can outsource that, right? Most videographers are somewhere in the middle of the operation. They're really good at like doing the work
Right.
and executing and editing and doing all that. So that means the other peer or pillar of your business. I'm making up words over here too, guys. That's part
It's
of what
not
I
just
do.
me. Okay, great. Good.
So, but you know, the sales and marketing piece is so important, and so a lot of times we're not thinking of sales as marketing, right? And you know, part of my business now with real estate is I have people that are prospecting for me, right? That's just marketing to me. So if they are prospecting for maybe a commercial brokerage customer and they book an appointment, I'm going to pay them for that.
Mm.
They don't get paid though on the back end unless I close that down, right? And we all win. On the deal sourcing side, when we're looking for off-market properties, I don't pay those people until they actually get the deal and we close on it, and they get a commission for doing that, right? So there's tons of ways to structure it, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
outsourcing those activities because ultimately I'm making the most money when I'm at the closing table,
Yeah.
whether it's closing the deal, raising the money, right, closing on the project. I'm making less money by doing the prospecting stuff. And it happens in every industry. Real estate's no different, where people can't see the forest to the trees. Well, if I pay that person that
Yeah.
much, it's less out of my pocket. You know how I get 200 hours of work done a week is I leverage other people's time. It's not just my time. Right?
Yeah, that's really good. I think just defining that the prospecting thing. I remember when that was that idea was first introduced to me, because I just assumed if I was going to hire somebody for sales, they're out there looking for jobs, they're having the meetings, they're closing the deals. Maybe I would come in on one of those meetings and help close a deal or whatever, and that was the flow. But when somebody's like, no, like you can actually hire somebody that will just do reach outs, reaching out to your specific niche and presenting it, and then trying to book a call with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I'm really good. You get me on the phone with somebody who's interested in video and needs video. Like, I'm really good. My close rate is really good with those people. But if I'm talking to everybody, I'm talking to people that, may or may not, if I'm reaching out to number one, I just hate my life if that's the case, if I'm talking to people that don't want or need what I offer. But, it's like ton of wasted time, just my creative energy sucked out of me. So anyway, I think that's a great takeaway, is this idea of prospecting. And we've got a couple of virtual assistants who do all sorts of reach outs via LinkedIn direct message, email. Those are probably the two biggest places, but I'm making it sound like it's all so
Text message.
Text message. Yeah. But that's so helpful. I'm trying to get them to land calls, and then I take it from there. Like that, if I was doing all that other work, like, oh man, forget about it. Like that sucks. And when people start thinking about sales, that's what I think a lot of people have in mind. They're like, I don't want to knock on people's door and try to get them to buy no, that you can find people that will do that and do it in a way that actually is trying to be helpful. And, sure, there's people out there that can be like, what the heck? Get off my property. I don't need that. And then,
I'm sure that guy didn't need video if he sounds like that.
I don't even know what that means. So let's talk about, I love to talk about personal branding, because I know this is a passion of yours. Tell me why is it important?
Well, the statistics show, specifically paralleling off of sales, that 90% of the research process is done before the customer ever picks up the phone, right? So if you have somebody that's out there prospecting for you and they're saying, Ryan Corl's the man and you should talk to him and book a meeting, you better believe that 90% of the time they're going to go out there and do some research about you before you've ever had an opportunity to speak with them. And so that really is setting the stage before you even get into that conversation about, are you the expert or not? I spent a lot of time on the recruiting side when I was working with the marketing and technology company. And, part of that process that we would do, somebody would submit a resume and an application and they go through the different steps. And then we would actually go out and do research on them. And you know what? Sometimes those people, based off of what we found, never actually made it to the interview, right? So you need to be able to control the conversation. People are going to, if you're in business long enough, you're going to have some haters, you're going to end up with some bad reviews and do stuff like that. But controlling your reputation and being able to dictate the narrative is super important. The stats are crazy, specifically on reviews, which is, like 80% of your happy population is willing to write a good review about you. Just nobody ever asks for it, right?
Yeah.
You're pissed off customers, you ain't got to ask them.
Don't got to ask them.
To write a review, right? So
true.
You need to control the narrative, and you need to be making sure that when people are looking you up, that they can quickly understand who you are, what you do, and why the heck that matters, and that you ultimately can control your reputation, because that's all you really have in this digital age. And it's really easy for somebody to go nuclear on you online and destroy that pretty quickly,
Oh man, I remember getting over the 17 years, I feel like we've gotten only a couple of negative reviews online, and just feeling crushed. Like, just, I there's an author that I listened to, he was just sharing last week about how we're super quick to forget, like, positive encouragement and affirmation and those kinds of things. We're quick to forget, but like anybody says anything negative and we hang on to that, it is unbelievable how long we hang on to that, and like what it does to our body and all of that stuff. So I just remember the couple of negative reviews that we've gotten. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should just close shop and be done, because I'm the worst. This is the worst. But I like how you frame that too. Like, the longer you're in business, the more opportunities, the more chances that there are going to be people that, just jerks and trolls and whatever. And sometimes we screw up, and, we don't serve people the best way possible. And so definitely we got to learn from that. But I like this idea of controlling the narrative. And what were you going to say? Because I maybe interrupted you.
I was going to say, just go do some research and reviews on Apple. There's some haters out there on Apple. You know what I mean? So everybody has it at some point in time. There's going to be somebody who doesn't like what you have to offer. The other thing I was going to say is just around personal brand is creating a lot of video content. I'm a huge advocate for video over static image. And I think specifically talking to this audience, there's sometimes probably this barrier where I like to be behind the camera, not in front of it.
Right.
And the other part of that is, well, it's not perfect, right? Look at the quality; it's not very good, right? And what you're missing out on is, because the barrier of entry is so high, meaning most people hate the way they sound, they hate the way they look, the video isn't edited perfectly. Most people are still not creating video content online. Whether it's updating their stories, whether it's posting to their YouTube channel, because they just are so afraid that it's not going to be perfect, and they're afraid of a troll, or they're afraid of a hater, or whatever it is. But I promise you, if you're just consistent with delivering that message, what I have seen, and just working in that industry, even in my own personal business, is a lot of people are no longer engaging with your content. They're not liking it, they're not commenting, but they are watching. So how consistently you show up is just like sales in a way, right? You're renting space in this person's mind. I just had a meeting today with an investor from a meetup that I ran a year ago. Obviously 2020 has been, a nightmare, right? So this was before that. So this was like 2019. But guess what? We're connected. He sees my content. He watches it. He sees my sponsored posts. And he hit me up and said, hey, I want to get passively invested in real estate, and I want to come play some money with you, right? All because I was consistent with my messaging and constantly putting out content. He already knew that I was the expert. And so when he was ready to get in real estate, who do you think he called? He called me, right? Same thing goes for video. You got to be posting regularly and often. And sometimes it's behind the scenes stuff, even like my content creator will come in sometimes, and while I'm doing a podcast like this, she's capturing that content because people want to see what's happening behind the scenes. They don't want to see this doctored message all the time, though that's awesome and it has a place. People are craving authenticity, and they want to actually see the person behind the camera, who you are, and sharing that story. So I think for creatives and video in general, we got to be better at doing that.
Yeah. Back when I started my video company, stock footage, it used to be the worst. It was terrible quality, super cheesy shots, and really small selection, and it was really expensive. That is not the case with Storyblocks. They offer affordable subscription plans to their enormous library of stock footage, and with their unlimited access plan, you get access to the whole library, including HD and 4K footage. They've got After Effects and Premiere Pro templates, music, images, sound effects, and more. Seriously, there is tons. There have been so many projects where our team just needed one extra shot, maybe the day after the shoot, the client was like, hey, this would have been a great thing to get. And we're like, or in post-production, they're like, hey, it'd be a really cool shot. We've saved our clients and ourselves a ton of money and headaches and heartaches, and we've saved a couple of projects that just needed that one special shot with our Storyblocks subscription. Head over to storyblocks.com/Studio Sherpas to help you create more video with their affordable subscriptions. Yeah, the challenge with being a creative video person is I don't want to put out video that doesn't look super good, right? Or feel good or sound good. So it took me a really long time because I've just struggled with perfectionism. We've gone over our edits, we've refined them, just spent so much time trying to make it perfect. So when somebody's like, hey, Ryan, it's time, for you to get in front of the camera and to talk to it's like, okay, well, I'll do that, but let's make sure the background's sweet and make sure there's no sticky notes back there. Let's do all of the things. And I would have launched something like this podcast probably 7 or 8 years ago, but I was afraid that it wasn't going to be perfect. I was afraid that people would be like, man, they're putting out stuff like this. Here's the thing, we're in the game. We're in it. Things might not be perfect, but there's so many people, there's way more people that aren't in the game than are. And so it comes down to your client choosing. They're going to choose who they connect with. And how are they going to figure out how they connect with you? Oh, you have content online and they can kind of gauge your personality. And they're not I was going to say they're probably not looking at the quality of your video. They're really looking at who is this person, and is this person somebody that I want to work with? Obviously, you have a website that has all of your gorgeous work and all of that stuff, but to be able to show up in a way online somewhere, somehow, whether it's a podcast, a video cast, whatever, to do that really closes the gap, and when it comes to selling, makes it way easier, because if you're staying front of mind, top of mind, then people already kind of know what they're getting themselves into. They just want to know, what's this cost and how can you help my business? I really like you. I like the stuff that I see. I like the stuff that I hear. How can we work together? And I've got a guy, just a quick story here. We've been posting, last month we were posting tons of stuff on live streaming, and he's in our plaza. There's, a bunch of different businesses in this section of property that we have. And we went around and tried to introduce ourselves to all of the businesses there. And he's one guy that we've maintained contact with because he wants to do video. And I went out there ago, and he's like, man, I just saw, you guys had posted some more stuff on live stream. He's like, should I live stream something? I'm really just trying to figure out a way that we can work together. And, for him, we're staying top of mind. He's seeing that we're doing this one thing. I told him, I said, for what you're doing, live streaming is not going to be helpful, so I kind of talked him out of that. But we talked more, and he's like, oh, that's the idea. We talked about this idea and this thing that he would serve his business better. But exactly what Samson, what you're saying, I used to be a perfectionist, be a believer of everything I need to put out needs to be on a, gimbal. It needs to be smooth. It needs to be lit, sweet, and whatever. But you're right. It's really just about showing up and inviting people into your world. A client will spend $10,000, $20,000 on a video. We'll put it online. It'll get 128 views, whatever. We'll also put a shorter video that's behind the scenes, shot on an iPhone or whatever, and that video will get thousands of views. People much prefer to watch the behind the scenes. How did they make this? What's going on? And that's you. That's what they're hiring. They're not hiring the finished product, because the finished product is going to be different depending on who it is, what their brand is, all that stuff. But if they can see you and you have an opportunity to see how you work, and other people aren't doing that, it just sets you apart.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, in sales, the basic principle is the first thing they're buying is you, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's no better way to do that than just creating content. Now, there's so many good tools now to make it pretty easy to create content as a creative and make it a little bit more engaging and add captions. And you can use Canva on the fly. Off the phone app is incredible. There's so many good tools. I think, though, the other challenge, right, back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is if you're not making time for it, it ain't gonna happen, right? So you also got to be very intentional about creating a personal brand. And I'm constantly Googling myself to see what comes up. I want to make sure the messaging is good, right? I want to make sure that what's there is representing the messaging that I'm trying to do, knowing that people are going to be actively searching for it. And then just being more active on my stories. It got to the point where social media is one of those things where It's important to post and it's important to keep your stories active, but it's social, right? So you need to engage and do
Right.
commenting. Well, I don't have time to be in the comments all
Right.
day, right? So another thing that I delegated is I went to my personal assistant and I said, I need you to spend 1 hour a day in the comments, right? Communicating, engaging, responding to people, creating new, and part of that helps the algorithm. So then now more people see your content that you're actually posting and you get more juice out of it. You know what I mean?
That's
So
so
it's an
good.
incredibly important piece of just the grand scheme, the grand picture of, what we're trying to accomplish as business owners.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. The one thing I will say is that social media, all of that stuff, showing up on video doesn't make sense until you're super clear on your niche and who your market is and who you're serving. We just finished this 5-day challenge recently, and that was one of the days where we just talked about without having your niche, it's like you're going to show up and you're not really going to know what to say, and you're not going to really know who to say it to. So you're not going to feel confident. So you don't do the video because you're like, why am I doing this? But if you know exactly who it is that is going to hire you, who your ideal client is, like where they work, what kind of work they do, what kind of things they like, what they don't like, what do they need, what is the problem that they wake up with every single morning. When you can identify those things, it makes it super easy, because think through when somebody calls you and they start asking you, what are the most frequently asked questions that people ask you, when they want to know more about your video stuff, like that. Those are the things that you can talk about without even thinking about it. So as you're thinking about your ideal client, don't show up online and talk to everybody, because you're just it's gonna fall flat. It's not gonna be shareable. Yeah, great that you're showing up. That is a big step, but that's only like 5 or 10% of it. Really, it's like if you can try to address your ideal client's problem and say that you're here to fix that, solve that, whatever, and here's how you can do that or whatever, that's just going to be so much more effective for people watching it. Your confidence is going to go through the roof. I've done 2 other podcast shows, our video production brand, and I never really got super clear on who the show was for and what the heck. For me, I was like, oh, this is a cool networking opportunity. Maybe some of these people would hire me. That was a terrible idea. Ryan, terrible idea. It was cool. I got to meet some cool people, so I guess it served that. But as far as the show, when it came time, I'm like, why am I doing this show? Like, it has I'm not addressing a particular concern or problem or anything like that. So,
Right.
Case in point, don't do what I did.
100%. Yeah, and I think it's kind of twofold, right? I'm a big fan of just taking massive action. So I think it's, get out there and create content. But when you have created the perfect content is when you speak it, it feels super authentic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when it's coming out of your mouth, you need to take notice of that, of, wow, that felt like me. Truly the message that I'm trying to get across. Stop, take notice of that. What is it about that post? And the process of taking massive action will also help you get more clear on who your avatar is. And it's constantly evolving, right? You're never gonna have it perfect from day one. You think you know what that is, right? But
Right.
like for me, like in the real estate space, specifically on helping people passively invest in real estate, it's like, who am I trying to serve? Well, I'm trying to help. That's why it says highly successful people who are already crushing it in their business, who are saying, I want access to real estate, but I don't have the knowledge, the expertise, or the time to go start a real estate business.
Yeah.
But I want all the benefits of doing it. It's like, well, now I'm giving people access to something that would otherwise be unattainable without me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm really serving that customer. You're successful, you're crushing it. You need to deploy capital. You want diversification away from the stock market. So come and place capital with me. Then it gets real easy. Now I'm just sharing about real estate and deals we're working on. And as I'm traveling across the country, what's going on there. I'm talking more about real estate and the power of passive investing and how you can get the same, if not better, returns. And people just flow with that. And then I do a lot of talking about entrepreneurship too, right? Because I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'm speaking to other entrepreneurs,
I love that. I would love to, before we end here, I would love just if there's any advice. I know you talk about horizontal streams of income, people just starting out their business. A lot of us are like, I don't have like extra money to invest and whatever. I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. You're probably going to say that's not really the smart idea. You need to diversify, but I'm just curious what advice or thoughts you have regarding how we can, have a more fulfilled life or a more balanced financial situation. Any thoughts, advice?
Yeah, I think everybody thinks about their income vertically, right? How do I get more vertically? And that's sure that's important, but at the same time,
And when you say vertically, you just
money.
mean how do I make more money, like doing
Yeah,
this
I,
thing
I
that I'm
made I
doing?
made 20,000. How do I make 30? How do I make 40, 50, etc.
Yep.
Um, at the end of the day, though, money is just a tool, and so you don't really become wealthy until you start thinking about how to put your money to work for you, whether that's hiring an employee and leveraging those dollars to get more of their time so that you can do more to grow your business, or it's strategically understanding how taxes work, and as an entrepreneur setting up your own self-directed 401k and being able to contribute $19,500 a year, which is actually going to lower your taxable income on a yearly basis, because it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. But also by setting up your own self-directed 401k, you now have checkbook control over that money. So if you ever needed it, you could give yourself a personal loan and be your own bank, right? It's taking that money, that knowing that you can put $37,000 a year into your Roth and being able to invest that and be able to get tax-free future gains off of that, right? It's finding other people who are doing things in industries where they're experts and placing capital with them. The one thing that wealthy people understand that everybody else does not is they surround themselves with really smart people who know more than they do. They know how to critically analyze deals, and they know how to take that information and say, I'm going to place money with you, I'm going to place money with you, I'm going to place money with you, right? And if you're an entrepreneur and you're building up your entire business and something happens and now you no longer have that source of income, you're up shit creek without a paddle, right? So
Yeah.
you constantly have to be thinking about it. People think way too big, right? I say horizontal streams of income, and I get $200 over here and $500 over there and 1,000 over here and 2,000 over there, right? All of a sudden, that's a healthy salary,
Yeah.
right? It's
Right.
like if I had to go a few months without income, I'd be okay, right? And that's a burden that is lifted off of you as an entrepreneur that allows you the creative freedom to focus on growing your business and not have to worry about how you're going to put food on the table. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's really good. That I'm just thinking of a couple of friends. One who just recently launched a YouTube channel where he's talking about his different streams of income, and exactly your point. Like he's got $1,000 a month coming from this thing over here. He's monetized this thing over there, and he's making like stupid amount of money, but it's all these different things. And when he told me he was doing all these things, I'm like, dude, that just sounds like too much work. And he's got it figured out. He's super efficient, and he's like taking home all this money. I'm like, wow. Okay, maybe I need to rethink how I was thinking about that. So any like just immediate we get off this call, Ryan, here's what you should do. You should go consider doing this, take a step back, think about this, throw your money at this. Don't tell me to buy Bitcoin. I'm not looking for that granular, but just curious, is there a different way or different way we should be approaching this?
You know, we live in a capitalist society. And so the government relies on us for two things: to create jobs and to create housing. And so the people who do those two things generally receive the maximum tax benefit within the tax code, right? So you hear me talk a lot about it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep, right? One of the reasons that I love real estate is because you get some of the best tax benefits, meaning tax write-offs, that as an entrepreneur, on top of all your other write-offs you're having, if you have these tax write-offs as well from real estate, you can really offset your tax burden every single year. So, for example, when I was making, $250,000, $300,000 a year, I was paying like almost $100,000 in taxes.
Right.
It's like, gosh dang it, right? And then I started leveraging real estate and started lowering my tax bracket significantly, right? So for me, that thing is real estate. Whether you can get involved in a number of ways. There's now it's crowdfunded real estate. So there's platforms like Realty Shares. There's groups like what I do where we put together syndicated projects where we're coordinating other investors who want to place capital into these deals in a passive manner. They're limited partners. There's local meetups where you can get involved in real estate. There's always people that are putting deals together that need money or capital, whether it's funding a project or maybe even funding the renovation of a project. There's so many different ways you can kind of get involved in these deals. But I think in some way, shape, or form, everybody should have exposure to real estate specifically. especially if you're an entrepreneur. You want to find ways to offset your taxable income, and that's one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah, that's really good. Super smart. Also, really what it makes me think of is everything that happened last year. So many people who had been in business, for a year or longer were asking the same question that I was. Like in April, I was asking, like, am I going to have a video business in May, June? Like, is this actually going to be a thing? So it really got me like, well, number one, I need to provide for my family. Number two, I've got some credit card debt. What the heck am I thinking? Like, I wish I didn't have any. So it really just got me thinking, like, I need to be way more efficient with how I'm working. I need to be more diverse or diversified or whatever, however, I am making money. Should it all be coming from these kind of video clients? Like maybe the video business is a super smart idea, but like only going after this one market isn't. And if we were still doing weddings back when last year happened, we'd be done. I mean, we'd be done. I'd be like, okay. But, fortunately with video, there's a bazillion different ways that you can make money by using video. So that would be one piece of advice I would say to people is like, think of different ways, different markets, different ways that you can make money. One of the things that we do, we create courses for other people and we get a revenue share when those courses sell. So that we just do the thing. It takes us, a few days to shoot it, edit it, deliver it. And then once it's out there, Facebook ads, whatever. So we're generating, passive income at that point. Having some things like that, super smart, but also you have to think, if you're the only person in your video business that shoots and edits, that's not super scalable. And if something happens to you, then you're not diversified. So, maybe you need to think about other things that don't require you to be the one, doing the thing. I think that's kind of what you're saying, Samson. That's one of my takeaways today.
100%. Focus on scale. Scale everything. Scale your business, scale your time, scale your finances, scale your investing. Scale is the key. It's not about just going vertically and doing more because you don't have infinite amount of time. You don't have infinite amount of bandwidth. You don't have an infinite amount of resources or an infinite amount of investment opportunities. So you got to leverage other people who are better at that than you are.
That's so good, man. Leveraging other people, letting them do the thing that they're really good at while keeping you doing the things that you're really good at. That's gold. Awesome, man. Well, how can people keep up with everything that you've got going on?
One of the areas where I'm super active is on Instagram. So I do a lot of just keeping up with my stories and creating content there. So Samson.Jagoras. I'm sure Ryan will drop that in the show notes. And then LinkedIn's a great place to connect with me. What's that?
I said I sure will.
Attaboy. And then, if you're interested in passive investing in multifamily, thegrowthvue.com is a great place to go and learn more about what we do by putting together passive multifamily investments. And then in the coming month, we're going to be dropping a passive investor course, which you can find at passiveinvesting.pro. One of the biggest challenges that people run into is they kind of go down the route of wanting to get into real estate investing. Then they realize they don't really have the time, the energy, expertise to go do that. So then they decide, okay, I want to be a passive investor. Well, there's still a pretty steep learning curve from deciding to be a passive investor and actually placing money. How do you critically analyze an investment? How do you critically analyze a market or an opportunity to understand that what you're getting yourself into or placing your money into is a good investment, right? And so that's what the course is designed to do is to take people and teach them how to be sophisticated passive investors.
I love that. That's great. Awesome, man. Well, this has been super fun. Any parting words that you would have for us today?
No, man, if you're out there getting it as an entrepreneur, like God bless you. We need more people to think that way and to create some awesome change in the world. So just know that you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do, right? The thing that you're put here to do, and the world's just counting on you to show up. So just triple down on that and have fun. If you stop having fun, then you should probably find something else to do.
Yeah, man, so good. Awesome, brother. Well, hey, this was a blast. I'm so glad we got to do this. Thank you for all that you shared and excited for what you got coming up.
You bet, man. I appreciate you, Ryan. Thanks.
All right, my friend. Thank you for hanging out on this bad boy. I'd love to know one thing that you're committing to, one idea or an epiphany or something that you can do as a part of your journey in your video business. You can leave a comment here or make a post inside of the Grow Your Video Business Facebook group page. It's a group. It's not a page. Get it right, Ryan. I also want to let you know, we did a while back, we did a 5-day challenge. We called it the 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge. We are doing it again here shortly. You can be notified exactly when if you sign up and get onto the wait list. And you can find the wait list at studiosherpas.com/challenge. And there's a little bit more information about what you'll learn on the challenge. That thing was so successful. It was like seriously one of my favorite, outside of the in-person event, the Onward Summit that we did a couple of years ago. This 5-day challenge was so awesome. Tons of community was built. Tons of action was taken on people's or inside of people's video businesses, and lots of epiphanies, lots of takeaways. It was just really, really cool. And it was super special for me because I got to meet a lot of new people that I hadn't met before. So check it out. It's free. Go to studiosherpas.com/challenge and just get on the wait list, and then we'll send you an email when it's actually time to lock in dates and all that stuff. That's it. Thank you for being here. I am for you. I am for the success of your business, and that is why this show exists. That is why I have my own video production company. That's where I spend the majority of my time is working inside of that business, leading my team, trying to land big jobs, trying to be more efficient in the stuff that we're doing. And I'm trying to take all of my learnings from there into here and help you learn faster, more efficient, take the things that are working for us, take the other stuff that I want to be doing in my business, and just find what resonates with you, find what lines with the goals that you have for your life and for your business. And if you don't have goals and dreams for your life and business, like, may I be an encouragement to you to find time to define those things so that you can be proactive as you move forward and book more of the kind of clients that you want to book and work on the kinds of projects that you want to work on. So I'm excited for you. 2021, let's just make it great. Let's be proactive in building our businesses, and let me know however I can support you. You can find me online at Ryan Coral, or you can shoot me an email, ryan@studiosherpas.com. I will see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Adios for now.